Welcome to the Soul Touched by Dogs podcast, the show for dog lovers who see dogs not as toys or tools, but wise souls worth our respect and care. I'm Anke Herman, and I'm your host. I talk to awesome humans, people who do great work for dogs and their people. So come and join us for today's conversation. Hello and welcome, John. I'm delighted to have you here and a very unusual topic, so I can't wait. Before we go there, just say hello to people, let people know where you're based in this wonderful world and what's your business with dogs.
Sure. Well, thank you for having us on. We really appreciate the opportunity to speak to your listening audience. My name's John Reider, located in St. Louis, Missouri, USA, and we make very innovative, fun, safe bubbles for the pet industry.
It's hilarious. I've never even, I hadn't before, before we met, I had never even thought that that was a thing, right?
Yes.
So I'm curious, how does somebody get into the business of making bubbles? And then to start with, and then how did you discover that this is something that's suitable or a good idea for pets?
Yeah, well, it's a 20-year version. My wife Beth and I have been in business for many years, but I discovered this bubble that someone had created that glowed under black light. It was called technobubbles, and I thought it was the coolest thing. That was some 20 plus years ago. I bought some of these bubbles online, like we all do late at night when we've had a beer, and they they came. And I was astounded at how cool they were. I mean, these bubbles, when you blew them under black light, glowed, and they were fabulous. Long story short, I bought the trademarks, patents, and formulas for that product, and we started manufacturing these bubbles to sell. Okay. And so we started by doing parties in parks and anywhere someone would let us blow bubbles for free, and then people started asking us to do bubble events. So we formed another company called Bubble Bus, where we actually go and do bubble parties, and so that's how this whole bubble business really got started. We make our own bubble formulas, and a friend of mine mentioned one night at a dinner party, and she said, John, if you and Beth came up with an idea for bubbles for the pet industry, I think you'd sell a lot of them. So I went to work that next day. I started researching, and here we are now in the pet bubble business.
It's absolutely fascinating. So, well, let's back up there for a second because you said something that I think you sort of just jumped over what feels like a much bigger story, right? You said like you stumbled across these cool bubbles and then you bought like the patent on, and like what went on in your mind? Like, I mean, I'll come across a lot of stuff that I think is really cool, but I don't go off and buy the patent. Like it's like there's what made you think like, oh my God, this is the business that I want to spend my time and my energy and my money on, really getting into.
Right. So I'm an entrepreneur at heart. So I've always, even growing up, whether I was cutting grass or raking leaves or selling lemonade on the corner, I always loved being in business for myself. So when I discovered these bubbles, I thought it was really the coolest thing I'd ever seen. I had never seen them before, and the guy had gotten a patent on them. So he was the only guy legal uh, to make them. So we did some research, and I really thought as a businessman and an entrepreneur that these were different, novel, and that I would get really rich selling these things. So over time, I started slowly. I started reselling them and whatnot, and then the gentleman who had invented them wanted to get out of the business. He was going on to other things. We saw the opportunity to buy the patents, the formulas, and the trademarks. So yeah, it was more than days. Yeah, there was a year or two in there making that decision where I first saw the bubbles until we actually bought the bubbles. So yeah,
Mm.
it was, and I think it all boils down to my love of business and being an entrepreneur, just loving loving that from the start. Bubbles just happened to be the product I first fell in love with.
Yeah, it's fun because it seems like so when you think it's like shoes, like that's like a necessity. Somebody like you got to wear shoes, like in most places, So, but like nobody needs bubbles, right? So who buys bubbles?
Correct. The first market I found, at least with my glowing bubbles, was the haunted house industry. Haunted houses are huge in the US, and
Oh,
I'm sure they are all over the world.
right.
Big biz, $6 billion business, and we started selling our bubbles to every haunted house in the US, and they were using them as a special effect, as like a radioactive goo or toxic gas or something, and so that's where we found our first business success, was selling to the special effects industry, which is
Ah,
kind of,
that makes sense.
yeah,
Yeah. All right.
yeah,
So okay, so the person who suggested to you, like, oh, you should make that for pets,
yes,
obviously they would have had an idea of what, like, it has never occurred to me until today to buy bubbles for my dogs, right? So how does somebody use them? Do dogs get scared of them? Do they play with them? Is that like, why would somebody buy bubbles for their dog?
right. Those are all great questions, and the same questions I had when when I looked at this. It's like, does this thing even exist? And they do exist. A lot of them were being made offshore, overseas. They were very low quality. They didn't work well, had terrible reviews. And so our first thing was, all right, let's make some bubbles that are going to entice the dogs, right? So our first bubbles were peanut butter scented and smoky bacon scented for dogs, and then we use real catnip that were infused into our kitty love bubbles. So we knew catnip was a no-brainer, for the cats. But we just started experimenting with different fragrances and scents that might entice a dog to go play with them. And we gave them out to a lot of family and friends and people that own dogs, and we found that a lot of dogs responded very well to them. They chased them around like a ball. Um, they got very excited with them, and then we found out very quickly that people were using them for play and for exercise and for health and wellness reasons. And I really created them because I thought they were fun and cool, and that people would have fun with them. But we're finding that the side effects and the good attributes that come out of this are health and well-being. Combating dog and cat obesity, because your older dogs may are moving more. It's low impact. They don't have to do a lot of jumping if they don't want. Elderly people can do it. You don't have to be an able-bodied person to throw a ball or throw a stick with your animal. You can sit out in a chair and blow bubbles. So it really opened up the playing field for all walks of life and for all animals, young and old.
That's interesting. So it's basically a toy. It's like a dog toy, right? So instead of me throwing a ball around, that I like one of my dogs is quite funny. Like she's a mastiff, she's a guard dog, right? And you throw a ball and she looks at you like, well, initially she goes after it, but then she gets like, yeah, you get that, right?
Yes.
So it's usually me who ends up picking up the last ball, right? So with the bubbles, I don't have to run after the ball then.
You know what? Yeah, you're exactly right. And it's also not a toy that you're going to trip over on your family room floor either, which is not bad. So, and the bubbles are like any other toy. They are a toy. They're considered a toy. When we sell them, they're like in the toy section, or on the store shelf. And sometimes you have to, just like you do with any new fetch toy or something you engage with your dog or cat with, you may have to introduce them a few times. I will say sometimes the first time dogs and cats see the bubbles, they are possibly a little frightened because they've never seen that, or it's coming, it's floating, and it's getting very close to them, and they're not sure what it is. But once you introduce it to them several times, it's just like any other toy. If they some dogs and cats will take to them, most do. Some won't. I mean, just like they'll look at you like, hey, yeah, I don't know what you're doing, but this ain't for me.
Yeah, I mean that's fair enough. Like that's the same with any other toy, right? So some dogs will love it, and others go like, "Yeah, that's for you, mate." So
Or
when they so if a dog basically like bites the bubble, like obviously that's not toxic, but is that like kind of wet or like what's the consistency? Like when you know, or if it like drops to the floor, is it like is it just sort of evaporating or how does it work?
yeah, great question. Yeah. So, as a kid and whenever you blow a bubble, it produces that floating orb. Mother Nature starts evaporating it right away. And then if it, really depending on the humidity and how much wind is blowing outside, that'll tell us whether the bubble pops in the air or whether it hits the ground. Okay. So environmental issues, wind and humidity play a part. Safety, you touched on that. Safety was a huge factor when we developed these bubbles. We wanted to make sure that no pet or human would be harmed if they accidentally ingested some or got some in their mouth. So we went to all the testing labs and made sure that we were creating a very safe bubble. And they carry a U.S. Toy certification from the Consumer Product Safety Commission. So they are tested safe. If a dog or cat gets them in their mouth or eyes, there's no worries. They can't be harmed. So that was the biggest factor when we did these for the pets, was making them super safe
Hmm.
and fun to play with.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense because I'm imagining like my dogs are, well, yeah, if they go like, "Oh, what's this?" Like first thing is they try and bite it, you know?
Yep. Yep. Yeah.
So it would be maybe be quite a funny reaction, right? If they bite into it and then it goes away. Like,
It kind of freaks them out at first, and then they get used to that wonderful scent that we've put in them. So that's a really big kind of enticement for them. They're smelling this, they're smelling peanut butter or bacon. We've also come up with birthday cake, pumpkin, uh, and apple pie as well. So we try to.
be
Yeah,
competing then, right?
right, exactly. It's a big dog party, baby.
Oh, that's funny. I mean, have you ever heard of a dog getting a little bit addictive or a little bit overexcited from it?
So, I have one gentleman who has to hide his bottle of bubbles and bubble gun because the dog gets so excited. Like when he starts to walk near them, the dog thinks it's playtime, right? So, yes, I've heard stories of some animals just being so excited about them that the owners have to kind of stash them away so that they don't see them, which as a manufacturer of the product, I love. I think that,
Well, yeah.
that's a great thing. But yeah, sometimes they have to hide them from the pets.
Yeah, I can imagine. I guess it'd be the same with kids too, right?
Right.
So it's not
Right.
like, yeah, yeah, that makes sense. So what have you got any other flavors that you've got in the works or like, what are you working on next or what's the plan? What are you excited
Yeah.
about?
Well, as an entrepreneur, I'm always looking for like the next best thing, right? Or enhancements to what we have. So I was actually talking with someone else the other day, and they were telling me about aromatherapies and things that they were doing with essential oils for calming. So I've started my research for looking at maybe some scents and fragrances that would have calming effects, put them in the bubble form, but instead of using them for exercise and entertainment and kind of stimulating the dog or cat, we'd use them to calm the effect, to calm the pet. So we're going after that right now, and then I think. First quarter of this year, we're going to be introducing, since we've had such great response with our catnip bubbles, we use a great catnip from that's made right here in the U.S. We're going to create a catnip spray. So we're going to be adding that to our cat line very, very soon. We'll have that at Global Pet this year. So
Because I'm thinking like, yeah, you probably have something that you're kind of working on in your lab. Like I would imagine, like, do you have like a fancy lab in your, somewhere where you have all your little bottles and tinctions and play around and develop new scents and new products? Or how would I picture that?
Exactly like that. So think of you being in your kitchen and you're a cook and you're making all these fun foods and you have your spice rack with all your different scents and spices on. Um, my lab looks very much the same. I have literally hundreds of bottles of different fragrances and essential oils and things
Mm.
we use in the production of our bubbles. And we're always in there kind of experimenting and taking suggestions from people. I mean, some of my best ideas come from talking with people and folks like yourself, and the gal yesterday, just speaking with people about, hey, what are your thoughts? What do you think might uh, be a good idea? Or it just comes up in conversation and you just pick up on it. Like my friend at the party saying, hey, you ought to check out pet bubbles. And, we did. So you always have to keep your ears open.
Absolutely, absolutely. I guess, and that's always that, when I always talk about when this, where your passion meets a need in the market, when that sort of hits. And actually now, obviously, we're talking about dogs mainly, but are there any other animals rather apart from dogs and cats who kind of, I could imagine, like, I don't know if I'm imagining like in a zoo and they have a bunch of monkeys to entertain, right? So it's like, are there other animals that would really enjoy playing with the bubbles?
So again, another great question. We have a top 10 zoo here in St. Louis. The St. Louis Zoo is a well-known zoo, wonderful place, and we do a lot of bubble events down there with our bubble company. But I've become friends with the curator of the large animals. So we actually have brought down our peanut butter scented bubbles for. They tried them with the elephants. And we've actually brought down catnip bubbles to see if the big cats, lions and tigers, might be interested in them. And we're still waiting for feedback on those. But yeah, there'd be no reason why, the bubbles would not. Instill the same excitement in a large animal, as it would like a family pet. Yeah, so we're looking at that. It's kind of a fun experiment. And the exciting thing is they're very interested in that because they're always looking for new enrichment.
Mm.
The animals down there see the same scenery all the time, so they're always looking for ways to enrich their lives. And it's kind of fun having people that are excited about maybe playing and experimenting with them, and they're happy about the safeness, like the pet safeness of our products as well. So that helps greatly. Yeah, it's wonderful. It's fun.
Yeah, no, I mean, like you just mentioned enrichment. There's just an enrichment, a dog enrichment summit going on. I'm like, well, next next time I think you should go speak there because it does go in that category, right? It's a mental stimulation, it's physical stimulation, and it's that fun element that it's not all that serious. It's not like, oh, agility, you have to do this and that. It's kind of you just be playful.
Right, right. Exactly. It's like when you exercise at home in your basement and you're not going to the gym and you're doing, the big fancy workout. Pets like to move around all day. They've been inside, maybe their owners have been at work all day. And yeah, everybody can kind of get into their own routine with bubbles. The other thing I'd like to mention is I didn't realize that pet obesity was such a big thing, in dogs and cats, at least here in the US, our animals are overweight. And, we're trying to use the bubbles to get people to get moving again. And it goes back to what you were saying about health and wellness.
Mm.
And I think we all feel better, when you exercise or when you take a walk or when you sweat a little bit, man, when you're done with that, it releases the endorphins and you feel good. And I think the same chemistry must be happening in our pets as well. So if they run around, I think they feel good when I think they feel good when they're tired.
Yeah, no, I mean, don't we all, right? I mean, actually, that's just kind of reminds me. So my initial idea would always be you play with bubbles outside. But you don't
Mm.
have to, can you? Like, you could play inside. I mean, obviously, if you have the space for. Sometimes you see these funny videos, when the dogs like crash through the living room and smash the. I mean, we don't want to, we don't want that. But in theory, there's nothing really that requires this to happen outside, does it?
You are 100% correct. Yeah, we actually encourage people. A lot of cat owners will play with their cats inside. Um, dog owners too. We see many videos of people in their living rooms or in their kitchens or basements playing with the animals. Here in St. Louis, like we talked before we started recording, it's very cold out here. Snow and icy conditions. It's actually dangerous for people to be out because they'll slip and fall, and happens with our pets too. So having something that you can do with them in areas that get cold and snow, big deal. You certainly can do it inside. That's a great thing to let people know. They can be done inside.
Yeah, because that's I'm thinking like, oh, actually, because we've got that here, not with the heat, but we have the problem in summer when it's so hot that during the day you can't go out,
Yes.
because they'll burn their feet and they just collapse from a heat stroke. And so there's literally you can go out with them like early in the morning or late at night, but sort of during the day, if you can throw some bubbles around inside, where it's just cooler, then
Yes.
then that'd be fun.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. On the flip side, yeah, when it gets extremely hot, it's just as dangerous for dogs and cats to be outside. So yeah, I think our pets like air conditioning as much as we do.
I bet they do. Well, they're not stupid, right?
Exactly. Break out a bottle of bubbles, turn on the air conditioning, and have a safe play date.
Yeah, I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
So, where would somebody go and buy those? And also actually, um, obviously I want you to tell people where they can buy yours, but also if somebody goes, oh, I'll just go on Amazon and grab some, right?
Yes.
So what should somebody be watching out for? Because you said before that a lot of them get kind of produced overseas and they might come from China and who knows what your dog basically ingests there. So is there something where you go like, yeah, make like if you buy whatever, like don't buy this, you know?
Right. Yeah. So to answer your first question, you can certainly find us on Amazon US and some of the international, but Amazon US is a great place to find our products. We have our own website, atomicbubbles.com, which I think you're going to share with
Yes,
the
we'll pop it below the
audience.
video. Yep.
Right. And, Amazon, you'll find r- reviews are huge, and especially on Amazon, reviews are king. And so I would tell your listeners to be very aware of reviews, see what people have done. Uh, that's a good thing for us to say because we rank very high on Amazon. We have thousands of reviews with 4.2 average review rating. So I think it's very important for people to look at the reviews and let past buyers who have tried the product and reviewed it be their guide. And with our particular products, you will find some wonderful reviews on us, and a lot of times we're ranked number one on Amazon. So that in today's world, that means a lot. That
That
means a lot.
means a lot. Yeah, for sure. For
Yeah.
sure.
So, yeah, and there are other ones that are out there. I would encourage your listeners to stay with, U.S. Manufacturers, people who they might know. But again, those reviews I think are the best way to go, and we rank very well. If you're searching reviews for pet bubbles, we will be in that. We will be in that top line search for sure.
I love that. Well, that's well done. Like that's not an easy thing to do, right? Especially with so many people offering stuff. So to rank well there and be around for
Yes,
so long, that's definitely worth gold in
it
today's
is.
world.
It is.
And
It's
so
great.
are you on social media as well for people to follow you? I don't know, are you on Instagram having funny, funny reels with with dogs playing with bubbles?
Yes, we have. You know what I'll do is I'll have Dana reach out to you after the show, and she'll give you all of our social media handles. And yes, we're on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, all of those. So your audience can go out there and see all the crazy stuff and fun things people are doing with our bubbles.
Yeah, because I can't think it'd be so much fun to actually see because now here it's just you and me talking, right? So we don't actually get to see the bubbles in action. So that's why I'm like, I mean, I'll might be always sharing the link anyway, but I think in this case it'd
Yes,
be really like real fun to actually see it in action, what that actually looks like and see how much the dogs enjoy it and so
yes,
entice people to try it out, so your dog will thank you for a new toy for sure. And so
yes.
thank you so much. This was so much fun, right? I think I love the fun element you've got in your whole business, right? So when you think the whole purpose of the business is to bring fun and excitement and movement and exercise to dogs and people, I think that's brilliant.
Yeah, our mantra here at Atomic Bubbles is peace, love, and bubbles. So we love to make smiles, and we like to make the world a better place if we can. And we say we try to do it every day, one bubble at a time. So we really appreciate the time with you and you having us on the show. And I hope your listening audience gets a kick out of the bubbles.
Well, they sure will. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Anka.
Thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed the episode, don't forget to subscribe and leave a review so other dog lovers can find the show. If you haven't already, head over to soultouchedbydogs.com and sign up for weekly doggy cuteness, tips, recommendations, and personal stories to warm your dog-loving heart. And if you know a awesome human you think I should interview, I'd love an introduction. Email me at Anke, that's ANKE, at soultouchedbydogs.com.